Welcome back to Breaking Bullying. I do feel that there are schools out there who do their best to help combat bullying, and they do a very good job at it. But I also know there are schools out there who drop the ball when it comes to dealing with bullying issues. Today is going to be one of those stories where the school has failed to help the student out. So I'm going to hit that music and get started.
Jay is going to share with us his story of what happened to him and how he overcame it, and what the long-term ramifications of bullying have been in his life. Jay, thank you for joining us.
Bruce, Tim, thank you so much for having me today. Very grateful to be here on this platform. Thank you for everything that you both do to give voice to those who've been afflicted by some of the, most common tragedies that come across those who grow up. So thank you for having me today.
Sadly, as horrible as your story is, it's also not that uncommon, though maybe not as extreme.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, the sad part about bullying as a child is it's almost as common as breathing at this point, and that can be attributed to family dynamics, insecurities, or just growing up. That we all have something inside of us that we have to let out in some way, shape, or form, visceral or not. But I I kind of come from a very weird dynamic. I grew up in southern Indiana, Evansville, if you know where that is. Actually, is considered one of the test market capitals of the country. If you've ever seen a product that it was being test marketed once or twice, that Vanilla Coke got its start in Evansville, Indiana. A lot of those kind of things. Because
What about Clear Pepsi? Was that also an Indiana invention?
Not invention. We are the test market. Oh. We have never been the actual like invention point of anything except like Don Mattingly and Ski, the Coke, the soda Ski. We're always the test market. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're in a valley. Maybe it's because we're always huffing fumes from a chemical plant called Sabic in Mount Vernon, Illinois. Growing up, I was, I grew up in a Catholic household. So my parents wanted to send me to a good Catholic school. And little did we know, when you go to a Catholic school, private school in general, you are going to be subjected to the politics of it. So when I was growing up, I was fat, nerdy kid. I was one of those ones who like loved like Adult Swim, the anime, Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that kind of stuff. If it was on past like midnight on Adult Swim, I was probably watching it because it was the only chance I got to like digest Japanese media. If you can't tell from like behind me right now, I have like a whole plethora of Funko Pops. Bruce, I see you also are the same way. I see Piccolo. I just see it blurred, but I see Piccolo, Gohan, Goku.
I'm an adult, but this is going to be a little bit blurry, blocked. But
oh, excellent.
Actually,
I was just drinking my coffee this morning with the original Mobile Suit Gundam that I got from Japan. So I'm one of them. If Bruce, if you are a big fan of anything that is like anime culture at all, you and I are about to be really fast friends. Is that Voltron?
No, that is.
Oh, dude, it is. Oh, dude, if you knew how I ended up with my wife, you would be shocked to find out that girls actually liked me. And that's why I ended up locking up my wife at 15. We've been together since we were 15 years old. And I did that because if she knew who the real me was, we wouldn't be together now.
Now I'm going to spend next conversation trying to get myself
back. No worries. But yes, like, so I grew up nerdy kid in Evansville, Indiana. And
were you an anomaly in your neighborhood? Were you like the only kid who had these interests? Were you like the only kid who had these interests? Was there a community for you, or were you an outlier?
I was definitely an outlier. So when I was growing up, I grew up in the same household that my parents built when they first got married, and it was like an older neighborhood, so there was not a lot of kids there. And my two older brothers, one was really, really into baseball, and the other was kind of like a loner. So when I went to St. Teresa, which was the school I ended up going to, it's closed now, so I can say it. Um, I grew up in the same class of about 12 people. That's how small our classes were. I could probably still name every single person that went from like kindergarten all the way up to sixth grade when I stopped going there. So I was the outlier because I was the only person who didn't grow up with them in preschool, and you know, it's private school, so it's very cliquish just because you know I don't want to say like in a way like the parents like caused it, but like with them it's like always we have to take them to a really great private preschool, and then we have to take them to a really good private elementary school and a really good private high school. Like every single one of the people that I ended up going to school with all ended up going to like the same high school, the same private school, the same college. Like everything was very like structured around like the power dynamic there. So I was the only one except one person who ended up coming to school later. His name was Logan Lindauer. He was the first person I ever had like the whole like secret handshake with. Great person, even to this day. His dad came to my grandma's funeral back in February. Great human being, great family. Um, but I was kind of like the loner there, so it was really really easy to find the nerdy kid who kind of sat across the playground when everyone else was playing because he was either reading a manga, playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or my favorite was Beyblades. You remember those? Let It
Oh,
Rip.
yep. They came
Oh,
right
dude.
after the Pogs.
Oh yes. Oh my God, yes. So I was sitting there against this like steel shed because they had this grate, and I was like, oh, this is my Beyblade arena. So I would literally be on the playground just like ripping it, trying to play the Beyblades, and that's kind of like when it started because the the bully was just he was a bully.
And you were easy
I
pickings.
dude, so easy. Like the dude who's always away from the crowd. Um, man, he would just like come up and just be like, "Oh, you want to be friends?" and all that, and just slap me in the face.
So the violence
It was
started
like,
right away.
not like right away, but it was like you know how like a bully would like I see you over here, man. How are you doing? You want to be friends? And you're like, friend, yeah, I would love that. So like a couple recesses, he'd like be really nice, and then like look back at his friends like ha ha, ha, and you're just like, oh cool, like I have someone talking to me. And then eventually it would kind of like go to like the whole like punch buggy, and then it escalates to like the slap in the face, uh all for the jokes because that's what I was there for. I was the punchline, and it went on for about a year or two. uh it didn't start until I was like fifth grade, and sixth grade was when it started being really bad. This same dude, his sister was also a menace. My mom was the special education assistant there. She taught Marion Day, that's what we called it. And his sister would like bully the special needs kids. So like that's the kind of people we're talking about right there. So when it came to it, um, I was on the what was the blacktop? We called it the parking lot, all that kind of stuff. Playing basketball. I'm shooting with my boy Logan, who was like the only friend I had during there. Him or Alex Dillman, who was ended up being a special needs one. I didn't know that growing up, but get into a circle and essentially he's like, "Okay, we're gonna play basketball now." Like does the whole like quintessential like bully thing. Like when I say in that story that I have on like my Instagram or TikTok, like when he acted like he was like a bully from like the 80s. I've watched every John Hughes movie. This dude wanted to be a John Hughes bully so bad. But did the whole like, oh, let's play basketball. And then does that. So we're playing. And he takes the ball from me. He goes, oh, cool. What about this? Just straight up headbutts me. And like, shatters this part of my nose, my cheekbones, and all that. I'm going back, like blood's going, and his friends are like, "Okay, so we're gonna go distract the teacher and all that." They get me up. They're like, "Okay, get like wipe the like the blood from my nose." And like, "You're good, right? It was just an accident, right?" And I'm like, "Mm-hmm, just an accident." So that incident goes. Uh, by the time I get home, my mom is like, "Oh, your nose is sideways." Like literally, like my nose will. You can kind of see it. It's a little big right here. It's went down since. If you saw some pictures when I like finally went to like high school, I looked like I had pregnancy nose. I didn't know what that was for the longest time until my friend Chanel got pregnant, and her nose went from like this to like that. Uh, but nose was swelled, but it also was like right here. It was like that, and my mom was like, "We should probably go to the hospital." And they're like, "Yeah, like dude, everything right here is shattered." So go do that, and finally talk to the doctor. And I was like, and they're like, "What happened?" I was like, "It was an accident." And the doctor immediately goes, "Okay, cool. I heard it's an accident. What actually happened to you?" So told the story. A couple days later, after like got like the original like it's like a cast kind of. It's just basically like a hard piece of plastic like put your nose. Ended up getting something called a green stick fracture. For the first one, basically takes like a nose that's like this and like straightens it out like that. Had huge tampons in my nose, like literally like that long, just straight back in the nasal cavity. Um, I ended up having like about four of them like that. I still remember. I think it was like the second or third time. My wife would know this one, but we just started dating at the time. She's like, "Oh, my boyfriend just had surgery and he's like out of it and all that." So here I am laying in bed. I was like 14, 15 at the time. It was a couple years afterwards. First time meeting my now mother-in-law, and my wife comes in checking on me, turns around, and I slap her ass. Great introduction to my future mother-in-law, but that's a side tangent. So after we get all that done, um,
So
after we
the
get all that done,
so when the doctor asked you like how that happened, you told him what happened. Was that when your mom found out that some kid, shattered your face?
oh no, she knew because she worked at the school. She knew exactly what happened. And it's one of those ones where it's like you bring him to the doctor, you just like try and go through the motion, but when the doctor hears it's an accident from the child, they look to the parents. um so go through the whole story about everything like that, and so the doctor's like, we should probably like talk to somebody, and that's when we finally bring in like we should probably bring the police, we should probably talk into the principal and all that. And about a week or so passes, about the same. I literally had to have someone walk with me to class. Her name was Madeline DeWeese. She's a sweetheart. Um, she walked me to class to make sure that this dude wouldn't like fuck with me after this. So we're sitting there with the principal. We have my parents, we have their parents, and a police officer. Looking back on it, I'm just like, whoever thought that it would be wise to have not only the bully there giving your statement, but the parents and a police officer is fucking stupid. Because talk about intimidation. So I'm sitting there, I say what happens, I say what's been happening, and they go, insert name here that I'm not going to drop. What do you have to say about this? And he goes, yeah, I did it. And they're like, why did you do it? I can get away with it. My parents donate a lot of money to your school. What are you going to do? Kick me out? Kick out that money? They'll take out my sister. What are you going to do? Joy LeDuc, who got fired after this, and I'm always good at dropping her name because she sucked. She was not a nice person at all to anybody. She got fired. That was the principal. So after that happened, my parents were like, okay, everything's out in the open now. We need to press charges because we can't afford the medical bills that are coming now from this surgery. So we threatened to sue. That same summer, uh, they blew up our mailbox a couple times. They put like firecrackers and all that, like the M83s
The kids
in there.
or did the parents? Because in this
It
in
was
this
the kids. It
town,
was
you
like
never know.
yeah, it was the kids who did it. So did that, and that's what led us to go, cool, like we'll just settle out of court. Not like nothing crazy. We just said any of these surgeries that come up over the next 5 to 10 years, you guys will have to pay for it. And they're like, cool, yeah, we'll do that, and we won't press charges, all that kind of stuff. And after that got settled, you realize that at 11 years old, you always think it's you. You're the reason. Like when you're that young, if someone really like goes through all this lengths, it's your fault, right? Like why else would anybody when you're that young do anything else but bully you because you are the exact reason? So after I had my first screen fracture, that was when we found on the table twice that I am allergic to all painkillers, every single one you can think of. It sounds hyperbolic, but Demerol, codeine, Lortab, Oxycontin, Toradol, Vicodin, you name it, it'll stop my heart.
Even NSAIDs, even Advil, acetaminophen.
I can take those. I can take like ibuprofen, acetaminophen, Excedrin.
So you
That's
can't
it.
take narcotics of any kind.
Not even a little bit. So I can't even have like being a musician. I can't even have like the fun drug addiction.
It's only fun at the start. So
yeah, my mom's the same way. So she can't take any painkillers either. But we found that out that I had that while I was on the table. Heart stopped twice because of anaphylaxis. And so after all that goes on, you've basically spent the last month of your life running, hiding, your mailbox is blown up, you have surgery, then you almost die. You're like, cool. I am the problem. All of this bad stuff is happening. I am the problem. So I take some of the lung painkillers I can take. Can't remember what it was. What was the medication that Michael Jackson took? That he
Fentanyl.
overdosed on? Fentanyl?
no,
Fentanyl.
Michael Jackson wasn't
Was it fentanyl?
No, it was some kind of anesthetic drug. So it had to be administered by a doctor. It wasn't fentanyl. But a lot of people have died of
But
fentanyl.
fentanyl can get administered by IV as well.
It can, but most people get it off the street.
Now I'm gonna look it up.
The only reason why I remember this is because when I got this medicine was the same year that he passed away. And that's showing my age a little bit. But I tried to overdose on that. And my mom was like, we're not having this. Like, she's like, almost lost you twice on the table. Now let's throw a third time in there by you actually trying to overdose on like pain meds. They scrounged together $50. I just remember $50 being in my head. And my mom was like, we're gonna go to a Walmart. But first thing we did, we saw Garfield, Tale of Two Kitties. Movie sucked, by the way. East Side, off of Green River, and my mom takes me to Walmart, and she goes, "Yeah, $50. You can get whatever you want, whatever video game, whatever toy, whatever. But whatever it is, you have to play with it in the family room." Do you remember when you used to be able to walk into like Walmart or Target with like first act guitars, like those really, really cheap guitars for like $40?
I don't
think I've seen them.
Oh, dude. Back in like the early 2000s, they were everywhere. First act, the Adam Levine one. I got the Adam Levine acoustic guitar, $39.95. And my mom was like, you know what? No, you're not going to get a guitar. Your older brother tried to do it a couple years ago. He tried to play like all the Jonas Brothers songs from Johnny Tsunami. You're not doing it. I'm just like, Mom, you said I can get anything I wanted. So her fear was I was going to pick up this guitar and I was going to put it down. Now her fear is that I picked up this guitar and I've never put it down. I basically went home that day and I didn't know how to play guitar. I did the whole like classic, like couldn't play chords or whatever, but I did like the whole like strum it. But I would get like a notebook and I would start writing things down. And from that point on, I I'm one of the really rare lucky ones that can say like music saved me in a way that isn't like music saved me. It truly did. Like I started writing songs that day. They were all shit, but having an outlet that allowed me to express all these emotions, like all this like anger I had inside myself was a game changer. And I say this is why I ended up being an emo kid growing up because my first band I was in was like emo metal, like a Hot Topic in early 2006. We all know exactly what we're talking about. My Chemical Romance, Hawthorne Heights. That was me. Think about a kid that looked like that. That was me.
I want to, before we get too far away from it, I want to ask a couple questions about back in the school
Absolutely.
day. Before the big incident, had you told anybody you were being bullied? Had you tried to get any kind of assistance with the situation from what would be considered the proper authorities?
Honestly, no. Too scared to. Like legitimately when you're that alone, you everything you do, you blame yourself. You're like, cool, like if I'm getting picked on, it's because of me. So I never went to the authorities or anyone really, like because I always just believed it was my fault. I still have like I feel like I still internalize a lot of that now. That like anytime anyone has anything bad to say about me, it's because of my own doing and it's my fault. But I wish I did. Like I really did. Like even now, like part of me is like, how much would have been different if I actually would have just said it?
What would you, if you could go back and talk to 11-year-old you, what advice would you give them?
Oh, I would tell him that it's not your fault. I would tell him that you're going to learn one day that people are just, some people are just bad. And that doesn't mean that's you, but you are going to be surrounded by people who love you. And it's going to be tough. And you're going to feel like you're not going to get through it, but by the skin of your teeth, you'll get through it and you'll be okay. No great advice, just take the punches.
You had mentioned that you have internalized and you still to some degree feel that if something goes wrong, somehow it's on you, it's your fault in some way, shape, or form. What other long-term ramifications have there been from the bullying?
So I have a like and this I'm a yes man. If anyone asks me at any given time to do anything at all,
Clearly, you're on the
I
show.
will. Yeah. No, this was a great one. Like I was so like stoked when you reached out to me, Bruce. Like that was such a great email to get. Um but no, like I have this complex where like I literally cannot say no. If you ask me to be there, I will be there. If a friend asks me if they need help with anything, monetarily, energy, time wise, I'm there. But also, like, if we're talking like things that have lasted, uh, I do content in artist development now for clients. One of the biggest things that have stuck with me is I have something called post concussion syndrome now. It looks different for a lot of people because the brain is just very weird. I have a really bad stutter and I will tend to forget things in the middle of my sentence. So like for example, like I'll be talking to a client and I'll be like, "All right, so here is what I'm going to say next because I have to think about it really really hard Because if not, I'm a Porky Piglet. And what I mean by I'll be like, this is that, yep, that's bullshit. That's how I'll sound. But I'm I always say I really am one of the lucky ones that um I was really lucky that I had an incredible support system. My mom, my two older brothers are incredible human beings. My dad, God rest his soul, was even better for me. Um, so I didn't have that lasting too long. I ended up finding music, and they transferred me real quick out of private school into public school, which I ended up finding some people that they're still friends to this day. Some of the first people I met when I moved to public school, Jacob Blue, Josh Bertram. I ended up writing my first K-pop #1 for a band back in 2019 with. So I really am one of the lucky ones that uh, the lasting effects didn't last too long. I have some like issues that I work through, but I'm not one of the ones that you probably work with that sadly have had to go through it, and I never want to trivialize anyone else that has to go through some of these things. Um, but it's horrible that it's one of those things that like I said at the beginning of the call, it's almost as common as breathing at this point, and it sucks. It really does. Like when I posted that same video that
I saw
you
and
had
contacted you over.
yeah, the amount of parents in the comments, but even worse in the DMs that basically were sending out Hail Marys of my son's going through this right now. I don't know what to do. And to know that there's a possibility that one of them went to bed without one of their child because of it tears me up. Because I wish that kindness was a little more free than the latter, but it's not.
What is becoming a reoccurring theme on the show for me, certainly, is a general disappointment in the school system's handling of children. There, what's your opinion of, I, not just from your experience, but what you hear of other children's experiences, of how schools, principals, social workers treat bullying?
I feel like their hands are tied in the worst way possible. You So I'm in Nashville. So I just lived through a shooting back in March where 3 kids and 3 teachers died. And the first thing a representative said was, rest in peace, those kids. Do not dare bring up guns to me because we will not fix that issue. That was his first statement. So when it comes to the overarching theme of trying to fix these things, a lot of teachers can't do what they want to do because what are we going to do when it comes to bullying? We're going to ask them to step in more. You do that, are they going to get sued? We put more counselors in there. We'll know that's social work, and then we bring it in. It's like, are we doing that? I think schools are one of the teachers are incredibly underpaid and incredibly caring. I've never met a teacher that works at any school I've ever been to that didn't care more than most parents did. And it is one of those things that I'll be honest, I'm not equipped to be able to like answer that at a high level because it's such a nuanced question and such a profound one that you guys are asking for that. but I just feel like teachers are very under-equipped to be able to handle these, just because when you get down to it, like when you ask for like the real response you want to get, they do that. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't.
I think the reason why is because schools don't have a system in place too. They don't know. Something comes up. I don't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it this way, but that's not what's approved by the school board, whatever. So I think the lack of systems, like I think schools, and they're probably confused too. We don't know what to do because bullying there's so many different levels of bullying. It's hard to cater to each case. But what I think would be a good start is, a kid who feels bullied, there should be someone at school appointed just to listen and let them get it out. Maybe not, maybe not. They don't need to go talk to that bully, but that kid needs I'm trying to say this right.
An outlet.
The kid needs to know that there's someone there's someone at school that believes them and supports them. So at least they're not feeling lonely like you did at school, where you just sat by yourself. You just had that one person that you could go and talk to that would listen at least.
Yeah. That's what sucks too, because you bring that up and it's like, cool, like let's regulate that. Right? I went to private school. They don't have to do that. And if they do, like it's one of those ones where I wish it was just more common practice just to go, cool, just come to me. This is a safe place to listen. That's it. I just want to listen to you. Because sometimes like that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if it was just catching breadcrumbs of like, okay, cool, like this has been going on for a year, Jay, younger Jay. They started with like this, and they started like making fun of you, and now you started like noticing that it was escalating a little bit more. I'm gonna start like keeping tabs on that, so that way I step in naturally. Versus, and I think that goes back to what you were saying, Tim, like more of like a system in place. But again, like it's such a nuanced conversation, and it's one of those ones that, dude, if you would have seen some of the comments on that post of like, if it was my son, I would have told him to come in there, or like I would have shut up the school. And it's just like it's just it just shows how like nuanced everything is, that on one side parents are like, cool, if you're getting bullied, I want you to like be the aggressor back. Or, hey, this is happening to you. I want you to be the one who ends it. And I don't
Yep.
care how you do it.
And that's not necessarily the kid's fault. That's the parents' upbringing too.
Yeah.
And that's what the kid hears. They don't know any better. But yeah, I think this needs to be taken not just like a school level, but it needs to be like a government level. I know the CDC has stuff out there, but you don't know it unless you search it. My kids go to private school. I have students that go to private school, and one kid just got suspended because he fought back against a so-called bully. And I know this kid pretty well. This kid would not hurt a fly. He's so little and fragile. And he's being suspended for fighting back at his bully. And private school, and I get it, they're not going to punish the people who, I shouldn't say that, but they're in a tough spot too. This person gives us a lot of money. How do we handle it? I'm probably just rambling on here, but if we stop looking at the financial reasons, start putting more emphasis on a kid's life versus your financial reasons, I think that's where it comes down to. We don't want to spend money to fight this issue because it's just too big, and we'll let the not-for-profits handle it. Because in your Instagram posts, you talked about how this saved your life.
Yeah.
Now you got a career. Because if it wasn't for bullying, you probably wouldn't have picked up that guitar.
No, my parents are not musical. My mom used to say that the only reason why she sang was because she was in church. My dad couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. neither of my brothers are musical. I would have never found music if it wasn't, and it did save my life because of that. Um, I am so grateful that I found that first that guitar because I learned to channel all that inner angst into songwriting and lyrics. And even now, this sounds so bad because it sounds like a plug, but uh, after about 18 years, I've been finally able to talk about it. And after losing my dad and losing my friend Brendan, who is his ashes are in this, is why I grabbed that. Um, I've been able to, write songs that kind of talk about how life does suck sometimes, but what's great about life is every valley, as deep as it goes, there's a mountaintop that is just as beautiful and grandiose as you think it is. And if you feel like you're in the midst of a valley, the best days are yet to come. And that's why I write music now. It's not for anything else besides trying to overcome life and all of its obstacles, because I believe that with every dark day there really is an absolutely beautiful beginning somewhere down the line, and it can look very different. We don't understand it. We can ask ourselves a million questions as to why things happen. And one of the things I have learned over the last couple of years is that there is just some questions we will never find the answer to. And that's a hard truth of the world, but it's a beautiful truth of the world. Because sometimes I'd just rather not know. And I think that's beautiful about life.
Yeah, I love it. This whole podcast started, well, the whole Cry Chop Bowling started from a good friend of Bruce and I's. And this person made me realize my bowling experience it sounds bad to say, but it's probably a gift, because you can now go reach out to kids who are in your shoes when you were younger and teach them how to persevere through this. There's always a positive in life, and sometimes you don't find out right away. You gotta take time. You'll eventually find the answer sometime in the future. And with you, you found music, and now you have a great career. And you know, it sucks that you went through bullying. And I'm sure there'd probably be a better way to find that guitar without going through this. But it sounds like, as also you're an upcoming musician, I mean, what could be worse in your life from going forward? I mean, I'm sure you can handle people saying, "I don't like your music anymore." Who cares? You don't. It doesn't matter anymore. You can take things a bit more. You're probably a little bit more tougher, mental toughness built up from it.
After, so I always say that the way that my life has went right now has just been one callous after another. Because I thought, cool, the bullying thing, that would be great. And then when I was 15 years old, I woke up surrounded by flames and my house burning down. I was like, okay, that'll be fine. Whatever. But this year, the year that just happened took the cake. Kind of like what you were saying. I can handle anything. I went from a period of 3 months where my dad randomly passed away on a Monday. A month later, my friend Brendan let us know that he was terminal on my birthday. And then my best friend of 16 years, his dad passed away from a botched surgery. I've lived through a lot, and damn it, I have seen the other side. And if the only reason why I'm still on this earth is to help others just see that there is a way through, as a life well lived. Because at the end of the day, like you were saying, Tim, if I had to be the one to go through hell, so that way I could teach someone, or like just show them the way through the fire, I will do that every single day, twice on Sunday. Because it is never about me. It is always about who can get out on the other side. And that's exactly how I live my life. That is exactly how my dad used to live his life. It was always about someone else. Because, as my mentor Randall Foster says, and my cat who is yelling at us right now, it is always better to build a longer table than a taller fence. And I want everyone to have a seat at the table.
I think that's a lovely thought. I'm going to say something better than that at some point, because that's just like, oh, that's a lovely thought. That's a good philosophy to have. And I think, I think that's a good philosophy to have. Now, let's say somebody wanted to sit down at this table and sample some of your music. Where would they find this played on the table?
Grocery stores near you, Busch Gardens commercials, and anyone in Iowa who has a mom. Because I have a running joke that my music sounds like what dads in jorts in white New Balances look like. We all know exactly what I'm talking about. But no, if anyone is curious, my music can be found at on Spotify, Jay Putty, JayPutty, Putty like the silly kind. But if anything, I'd rather people listen to a podcast like this and hear stories from better individuals than I am whenever they need to, because the world needs more people that give voice to the voiceless than some dude who has a guitar. So that is my thoughts.
Well, thank you for that.
Of course.